Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm Anil Mall. I represent the Canadian Securities Exchange. And today I am talking to Russ Rossi. Russ is the founder, president, and CEO of Quizam Media Corp that operates as Quantum One Cannabis. Russ, we never had a chance to talk to you previously when you guys first listed. So I'm glad that we're here talking as a listed on the CSE company. How are you?
Great, thanks. Good morning, Anil.
Why don't we begin by you talking to us about Quantum One Cannabis, Quizam Media Corp. What is the vision behind this company?
Well, thanks, Anil. Quizam Media is a media company that has been involved in education, in online education. We've actually produced some movies as well that are streaming on Amazon Prime and in the theaters. And we got into cannabis training just pre-cannabis going legal in Canada. We were educating some of the employees at the BC Liquor Board, some of the corporations that were wanting to learn about cannabis, individuals who wanted to find out about cannabis because the shroud, the mystique of cannabis was being pulled away by it going legal, and the stigma was slowly melting away. And people wanted to know about it. You know, what is THC? What is CBD? How do you do cannabis? And along that road, we came across an opportunity to get into the retail side of things. And we thought, you know, we were kind of halfway there. We know cannabis well. We've got a nice cannabis team. We're certainly very experienced in management, in controls, in HR, in electronic systems, computer systems, POS systems. So we thought, let's take a play at this because it'd be a nice portfolio to add to the group of companies of Quizam, and are we ever glad we did. Quantum One now has 5 licenses in British Columbia, about to get 3 more. We have locations pinned down. We have a new flagship downtown in Vancouver that hopefully will open in the next few months. And revenues are up, our profits are up. I mean, everything is going really well. So it's a nice little addition to our portfolio. We consider Quantum One the jewel of the pile.
Perfect. So you guys have launched Quantum One in, I think it was October 2018, around that time. You mentioned that you guys have 5 cannabis retail locations in BC with 3 more to open. What locations are currently accessible to consumers?
Okay, so we're in our 5 locations right now are in North Vancouver, which is in Vancouver. We're in moving east. We're in a place called Carameus, which is maybe 100 miles east of Vancouver. We are in Vernon, which is a bit north of Kelowna, which people probably heard of. That's about 150 miles kind of northeast of Vancouver. We're in Grand Forks, British Columbia, which is 300 miles. I guess I should be talking kilometers, shouldn't I? I'm old school. 500 kilometers east of Vancouver. And then we're in Creston, BC, which is about 650 kilometers east of Vancouver. So we're kind of like in the southern British Columbia sector.
And then you mentioned you guys have a flagship location.
Yeah, we signed a purchase deal on a new location that's on in the west side of Vancouver, right across from the biggest liquor store in British Columbia. It was picked as a great area by the BC Liquor Board as a good area, and we managed to get the only location available right across from the liquor store. That is going to be a great market for us as well. So we're looking forward to getting that opened in the next few months and adding it to our portfolio.
Especially when they have those one-of-a-kind whiskeys and rare liquors come in, and there's lineups around the block. So I would imagine that you guys would be able to feed off that.
Yeah, you get a scotch and some cannabis across the street. What better combo?
So I want to talk a little bit about your background. You mentioned that, through Quizam Media Corp, you guys have been producing educational content, not only for the government, but consumers around cannabis. You talked a little bit about making movies for Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, but talk to our audience. Tell us how you got into this. What's your background?
Well, my background is commerce and computer science. I mean, I originally started as a coder and wrote a lot of software back in the early days. And before we had a public company, we were writing client management software, fax blasting software, asset allocation control software for financial planning companies. So we were heavily into coding just during the burst of the computer, the computer business. And we grew. I mean, this is when it was a private company. I mean, we grew OntrackTV to several locations all over the world. We had big offices in, when I say big office, I mean like 6,000 square feet in a AAA building in Seattle, in Las Vegas, in New York, in Atlanta, in Boca Raton, in Manchester, in London, England, in Victoria. So we were really ahead of our time for computer training and consulting. Okay. That was all sold off, and then we kept one of the shops in Vancouver, and then we got more into writing quiz software for schools, online learning, online training, and that was kind of our flagship office here in Vancouver. When we went public, we continued down that line, doing online training, doing face-to-face training, but we found that in all of our training, we used a lot of cameras, a lot of lighting, a lot of sound, and we found that we had all of the hardware required to actually produce some movies. We started with some documentaries, and we got into some fiction movies, and that's where we came along the opportunity to do some cannabis training videos, a series of cannabis training videos, which then parlayed into the cannabis retail. That kind of is what happened in a nutshell. And here we are years later with these retail stores that are breaking records every month in terms of sales, and that are growing. And we feel really comfortable and competent at the helm. We're able to manage it. We're able to scale it, and we're not yet feeling that we're pulled to our limits yet. We still have room to grow and to expand. So it's kind of a nice position.
So obviously, apart from your North Vancouver location and obviously the flagship that's coming up here in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver, the other locations you mentioned, they're smaller niche markets. It's almost small town BC. But the thing is, these towns are all experiencing massive growth. Vernon, Creston, Grand Forks, there's a lot of growth happening there.
Yeah.
And what would you say differentiates Quantum One cannabis stores from maybe some of the peers that might be in and around those areas?
Well, when we were first branding Quantum, we did a lot of research, and we looked at the competition, and we saw that a very common theme for a lot of the cannabis stores are, woods, earthy tones, bricks, browns, high tech. Some of them have a big screen in the back, and you order off a screen like a McDonald's, and it's all, again, sort of dark and woody and earthy. And we thought, you know what, we need to differentiate ourselves. So we went a different track to whites, neon, bright, apothecary, and we've also gone with a different approach. We've gone with the old, tried, true, tested jewelry case display type format. So just like a jewelry store that would have a bunch of cases that are all glass with all of our product in there. That's how our stores are. You come and browse. You come and browse and see all the product. You look and you ask some of our experts about you want information about a certain product. We have people who can inform you, who are educated on those different products. We also have little write-ups beside each product. So it's a much better, we feel, it's a less intimidating shopping environment, as opposed to going to some of these big stores or these other stores that just have, I don't like just ordering off a screen where they have a big video screen and you got to go up there and they're just a bunch of words. So what does that mean? What am I ordering? People like to see it.
So what would you say are some of the other milestones investors can look out for? I know you mentioned that you guys have a couple of, obviously the flagship that we talked about that should be opening sometime around the summer, but are there any other milestones you can talk about?
Well, I mean, we are, there's a strategy that we're adopting, that we've adopted actually. It's in the British Columbia environment, it's very competitive finding retail space that we can open stores in. Most of them are taken. Also, the BC government is very specific, and so are the cities, on where you can put stores. I mean, where you have to be 300 meters away from another store, 400 meters from a school, from a church, so there's all these rules you have to follow. So I mean, we have 2 full-time people on maps that are going through all the different zones. And so there's one strategy we're adopting is looking at the existing ones that we could even take over. But for that, you have to pay a premium, okay, to get their license, to get their what's called a development permit, and take it over. I mean, that can cost anywhere from $500,000 to 1.2 million. But another strategy that we've also adopted is we've looked at a couple of pockets in the Lower Mainland where it's not yet legal. Okay, case in point, West Vancouver, Langley, Pitt Meadows. These are all different areas that are not legal yet, but we think they might get legal. So what we've done is we've gone and we've leased retail space in those pockets with solid 10-year leases with an out to the landlord for the first 24 months if we want to walk for a minimal out payment of like $5,000. And then we're actively subleasing them to other parties so that our lease payment is covered. And what we're doing now is then talking to the councils of these areas, West Van, Langley, Pitt Meadows. And if they do decide to go legal, we'll have a space right there ready to go and be first in line. So that's our second strategy: organic, preemptive, and pushing towards having 8 locations in British Columbia in the next 18 months.
I think that's a great strategy to position yourself in these suburban markets that are still in the process of allowing dispensaries and their population to consume cannabis.
I mean, this is a new market. It's a new frontier. It's like the wild, wild west. And what we found is when a city goes legal, everybody and their dog jumps and leases all the retail space, right? So it's hard to find good spaces. I mean, we have gone, I won't talk about burden you with the long stories of getting the camera location, but I'm telling you, we had to jump through a lot of hoops. It's a very, very complicated process getting everybody lined up on board: the landlord, the tenant, the city, the province, the federal government. I mean, it is, it's no wonder they're worth so much money, because it takes forever and it's complicated to get there.
Russ, obviously, Quantum One's got a significant footprint in some of these towns in BC as well as the Lower Mainland. Do you guys have any plans to branch out to other provinces?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, right now we want to take the low-hanging fruit in British Columbia. We're allowed to have 8. Let's do 8. Okay, so let's get 8. We've got the management, the POS, the electronic systems, the control systems. They're all in place. We can for us to open another store, we're just plugging it in. It's like a no-brainer, and we really have it under control. Once we have those 8, we're already looking at Ontario. Matter of fact, I'll be there beginning of June, and we've got a couple of locations spotted in the Toronto area as well as the Ottawa area. So I think that will be our next case. And then using the cash flows and profits from our existing 8 centers, it's going to give us a nice little war chest to be able to buy and fund expansion in Ontario.
Wonderful. Thank you for that insight. Now, where can our viewers and audience go to find out more details about your team, the Quantum One Cannabis locations, what your plans are for the future? What's your website, social channels?
Well, we'll go to, if you go to, well, first of all, go to QuizamMedia.com, QuizamMedia.com, and then that shows you the group of companies, and you can click and see all of our directors, our team, and then go to Quantum One Cannabis.
Well, it's been great sitting down talking to you. I know it's been, you guys have been listed for a while. We just never had a chance to kind of do this clip. So thanks again for joining me for this listed on the CSE clip, educating not only myself, but our audience on who you are, what Quizam Media Corp is, and your role with Quantum One Cannabis in British Columbia and eventually the rest of Canada.
Thanks, Anil. It was a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk soon.
You bet.
Thank you for tuning in to another newly listed on the CSE. Please feel free to hit like and share this content, and hit subscribe if you haven't already.